Discover how a surprising airport encounter with a hidden police agent transformed my life forever. Sarah sat in the crowded cafe, tapping her fingers nervously on the table while her mind raced. Every clinking coffee cup felt as heavy as her worries, echoing the relentless struggle she'd been hiding behind a smile. At 32, the world outside O'Hare seemed vibrant and full of opportunity. Yet her heart sank at the thought of bills piling up at home. How could she provide for Lily, the light of her life, amid the chaos of her existence? The bustling travelers around her were the epitome of joy. She felt like a ghost among them. When he approached, she hadn't expected the ripple of warmth that flushed through her. Jake was striking, with an easy smile that carried an air of confidence. They fell into conversation like old friends, laughter punctuating their discussions about life, dreams, and fears. As Sarah fiddled with her laptop, a flicker of hope lit her heart. Maybe it was just a momentary escape, but she suddenly felt weightless, as if the burdens she wore so tightly had loosened, even if only for a while. As mugs refilled and time slipped by unnoticed, she shared her insecurities. The relentless fight for survival, the urgency that drenched her sleepless nights, the worry that attacked her on every street corner regarding Lily's safety. Jake listened, truly listened. When he spoke, it was with a vulnerability that surprised her. He was a police agent, hidden in plain sight, fighting a war she had only ever read about, the tragedy of human trafficking. His passion resonated with her, fanning a flame she feared had long been extinguished. For the first time, she thought of becoming a detective, fighting for those who couldn't advocate for themselves, just as he did. But as her vision of a brighter future shimmered before her, reality's fetters gripped her once more. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as their connection deepened, disaster struck. Jake was injured on duty, pulled into a chaotic situation she couldn't begin to comprehend. Suddenly she was faced with a choice. Did she let this opportunity to reconnect fizzle out? Or did she step into a role that meant supporting him through recovery? Her heart was torn. A part of her craved the connection, but the weight of responsibility pressed on her chest like a leaden weight. Shakily, Sarah found a resolve she never knew existed within her. As she began to champion victims of injustice, she unearthed a voice that roared within her. But then, the very essence of her new path cracked under the pressure of moral ambiguity. An influential law enforcement figure emerged from the shadows, presenting her with a tempting offer. It loomed like a dark cloud, promising validation, and an avenue toward her dreams in exchange for her integrity. Would she betray her sense of right to climb the ladder? And could she live with herself if she did? The tension twisted tighter, wrapping around her chest as each decision felt heavier than the last. As she faced the brink of a decision that could change everything, Sarah's heart raced with every passing moment. Would she surrender to ambition or uphold her morals? The stakes couldn't be higher, and uncertainty draped over her like a dark cloak. She stood at the edge of a defining moment, the promise of a new life glimmering just out of reach. The cafe's hustle faded into a muffled background as Sarah sat, her thoughts churning in a maelstrom of self-doubt and ambition. With every passing second, the weight of the law enforcement figure's proposal lingered in her mind like an uninvited specter. She didn't want to betray her principles, yet the bright allure of a promising career, a chance to finally fight for those who needed her, tugged insistently at the edges of her resolve. The decision loomed. Each scenario played out in her head as if on an endless loop. Accepting the offer would mean gaining not just security for herself and Lily, but a way to make an impact and champion those lost in the shadows. Yet what price would she pay for that ambition? Would succumbing to the pressure carve away the very essence of who she was? As the voices of coffee drinkers swirled around her, each laughter sounded distant, almost mocking. She closed her eyes, envisioning Lily's smile and the dreams she held for her daughter. How could she put those dreams at risk for fleeting recognition? Resolutely, she decided to do something rather than remain a passive figure in her own life again. The next morning, Sarah mapped out a plan at home, transforming her kitchen table into a command center. With Lily enraptured by cartoons in the living room, she searched for resources on criminal justice programs nearby. Perhaps college could bring the skills she needed, and being part of a community dedicated to justice was still within her reach, without sacrificing her integrity. But the more she discovered about the study pathways, the clearer it became that the road to becoming a detective was fraught with complexity. She navigated a maze of prerequisites, applications, and potential rejections that sparked a mix of fear and tenacity within her. The recurring thought of Jake's transformative words inspired her. The fight wasn't merely an occupational endeavor, it was a personal mission. In her pursuit, the phone rang. It was Jake, and she gulped hard before answering. His voice was wavering yet steady. He spoke of vulnerability and strength, delving into his recovery process. He hadn't lost the drive that initially ignited Sarah's ambition. It was infectious. Their conversation spurred upon her an urge to act, not as a mere supporter, but as an aspiring detective, someone who, like Jake, might change the narrative for others. "Sarah," he said, "don't let anyone sway you from what you truly want. Fight for those who can't." Those words became her power, resonating through her veins as she pressed a hand to her chest, her heart racing again. However, the return of uncertainty didn't dissipate. The powerful figure from the previous encounter had promised to track her talent. The stakes escalated, and she had to weigh her next move carefully. Should she ignore the temptation to secure a spot that would ensure success? Or would she reach out for help from the very community she sought to join, risking vulnerability? The clock ticked louder in the silent room, the weight of her thoughts solidifying into an immovable barrier. Each decision would crystallize into a pivotal moment in her life. Would she embrace the struggle ahead with dedication, finding allies in a field that shaped the rights of the vulnerable? Or would the shadows of ambition claw at her, distorting her ambitions into something twisted? Sarah had come too far to turn back. The moment to confront the enticing offer wasn't just about professionalism. It became a battle for her very identity. The road ahead promised discovery, but would it truly lead her to the person she wanted to become? With a new determination blooming inside her, Sarah decided it was time to take action. She would reach out to those who'd been there, those who had fought this fight. As the phone remained in her grip, she took a deep breath and made her decision. But what would those seemingly innocuous connections reveal about the world she was stepping into? The path glistened with promise and danger, each step holding the potential for unfathomable discovery. Sarah's fingers trembled as she ended the call with Jake, his words still echoing in her mind. The resolve to seek connections in the law enforcement community electrified her thoughts. She could no longer dwell in indecision. Each moment needed to count, and the time required action. As she secured her phone in her pocket, the notion of reaching out felt both daunting and liberating. She decided to pursue an unconventional path. Perhaps starting small would unveil larger opportunities. The local police station held volunteer opportunities and programs aimed at community engagement. If she could showcase her commitment through tangible efforts, it might pave the way toward future possibilities and offer first-hand glimpses into the profession she aspired to join. Navigating her laptop amid the clutter of the kitchen table, she discovered a Citizens on Patrol program. After reading the details, her heart raced. It seemed tailor-made for her ambitions. Volunteering there could provide experience and also connect her to law enforcement officials without the pressures of formal applications. It was time to step into the fray. She composed her application while glancing at Lily, blissfully preoccupied with her cartoons, unaware of the shift unfolding in her mother's life. Later that week, Sarah arrived at the police station, her heart thumping against her ribcage. The building loomed large and imposing, a stark reminder of the challenge she had set for herself. As she approached the desk, she offered her name to the officer on duty, trying to mask her nervousness with a calm presence. Yet inside, self-doubt clawed at her. What if they dismissed her as just another dreamer out of touch with reality? "Miss Parker," said a tall, stern officer with an air of authority. "I see that you applied for the Citizens on Patrol program. We value community engagement, and I think you could be a great fit. However, it doesn't come easy. Are you prepared for what lies ahead?" His tone was both challenging and supportive, causing Sarah to meet his gaze and summon her silent determination. "Yes, I am," she replied, her voice steadying over the tremors that threatened to betray her conviction. As her training commenced, she found herself immersed in the world she had longed to understand. Days turned into weeks, and with each ride along with different officers, she gained insights often hidden from the general public. Patterns of behavior, community needs, the balance between empathy and authority. Each moment expanded her understanding of the profession. Yet there were shadows, too. During her shifts, it quickly became apparent that not every officer practiced the same principles of justice she admired. Uncomfortable discussions arose in the break room, veering toward topics of policing tactics and power dynamics. The varying perspectives unsettled her. They jolted her with the realization that not every champion of the law shared her ideals. Departing the station one evening, she was approached by a familiar face. It was Officer Nate, a mentor figure who had often questioned her motives in a friendly yet probing manner. "Sarah, do you really think change is possible within these walls?" he asked, sincerity radiating from his eyes. His query stung, igniting a conflict within her. Was she striving for change? Or was she merely capturing small victories in an unforgiving system? She hesitated, grappling with the duality of her aspirations. "I believe it can be," she replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "But change requires more than just good intentions. It demands courage." "Courage is in short supply here," he remarked. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air. Life felt like a tightrope walk, and with every interaction, she emerged from the shadows of ignorance, ready to confront deeper truths. Sarah pondered that night whether she could play a role in making those truths known. Little did she realize, however, that her next encounter would push her to confront not just the institution, but her very identity. As Sarah prepared for her next shift, she sensed the shifting tide beneath her. What she once sought as a means to an end was slowly transforming into a quest for her own principles. Would she find the courage to unveil the uncomfortable truth surrounding her? Or would she retreat to the safety of conformity? The choice lingered like an unwritten chapter in her journey as she continued along a path fraught with moral complexities. Unbeknownst to Sarah, destiny was testing her resolve, and the next challenge was already on the horizon, demanding her to face the reality she had meticulously constructed. Every day at the station was an oscillation between excitement and apprehension for Sarah. The thrill of riding alongside seasoned officers inspired her, but the weight of her revelations often left her breathless. As she charted her path, she started to grapple with the nuances of integrity and ethics in a law enforcement world that often felt rife with contradiction. That particular evening, as she finished her shift, Sarah's mind buzzed with thoughts about the various policing philosophies she encountered. The office had become a pulpit for differing views on authority and community interaction, a philosophical battleground where her idealism often met the pragmatic reality of policing. Officer Nate's question replayed in her mind, mocking her naivety. Was she willing to be an agent of change, or would she simply conform to a flawed system? Determined to seek clarity, Sarah decided to explore its darker corners. She carved out her next opportunity, attending a local law enforcement community gathering. She could engage with officers outside their structured roles and learn about their personal experiences and beliefs. Stepping into the crowded hangar-like building, she felt her heart race. It was filled with officers in casual clothes, engaged in lively discussions over refreshments. The atmosphere was less formal than the police station, yet it bristled with an undercurrent of tension. As she milled about, she could not shake the sensation of being an outsider among a group that had unwritten rules she hadn't yet mastered. Sarah spotted a familiar figure across the room. Officer Nate stood with a group of colleagues, laughter punctuating the serious undertone of their conversation. Drawing courage from the camaraderie, she approached him. "Hey there, do you mind if I join in?" she asked, projecting confidence that she didn't entirely feel. "Of course, Sarah," he beamed, introducing her to his fellow officers. As they welcomed her, the conversation turned to the challenges they faced day to day. "In policing, you have to choose how much you want to play the game," said Officer Ramirez, a burly figure with a gruff tone. "Some choose to be comfortable, while others thrive on discomfort. It's up to you where you draw that line." His words hit a nerve. Did thriving come at a cost? The question spiraled in her mind. The conversation shifted to accountability, for the actions of others, for the past decisions made within the department. Sarah listened intently, realizing the complexity of moral authority. After a few hours, she slipped outside for a breath of fresh air, feeling the weight of conflicting ideals. Just then, she noticed a figure lingering at the entrance, their eyes fixated on her. "Can I help you?" she asked, a hint of wariness clouding her tone as a man stepped forward, revealing the official issue badge peeking from beneath his coat. He introduced himself as Special Agent Connors, part of an internal affair unit. "I need your help," he said directly, his gaze intense but somehow friendly. "We're looking at allegations against certain officers in this precinct. Your perspective might be invaluable." Her stomach twisted into knots. The probing nature of this encounter caught her off guard. A mixture of excitement and dread flooded her system. Would this be her chance to instigate change? Or was it a path leading to unforeseen danger? "Why me?" she finally managed to ask, searching his eyes for answers as the world around her faded. "Because you've shown a genuine commitment to understanding the layers of this community," he replied. "But make no mistake, it will test your limits and challenge your beliefs. Are you willing to confront what lies beneath?" In that moment, Sarah knew she stood at a precipice. The offer dangled promises of personal growth, but it also cast a shadow of potential confrontation. She could no longer be just an observer. This was her chance to be an agent of transformation. But at what cost? The decision weighed heavily upon her. Sarah's journey had already begun to reshape the contours of her identity, but this opportunity promised to change everything. Would she rise to the occasion, or retreat into the comfort of her original aspirations? With the stakes higher than ever, she felt uncertainty settle in the pit of her stomach. Yet beneath it, a flicker of resolve ignited. The time had come to confront her greatest fears, both within herself and within her professional path. As she stood there, the dark possibilities loomed ahead, the choice before her unmistakable. Would she seize this chance to delve deeper into the truth she sought, or would she shy away, relinquishing her grip on the very change she longed to see? Sarah stood on the brink of a pivotal decision. The vibrant chatter from inside the hall barely registered as her mind raced through the implications of Special Agent Connor's request. Helping uncover potential corruption among her peers could establish her as a beacon of integrity within the department. Yet it also exposed her to immense risks, both personally and professionally. As she faced Connors, she felt the undercurrents of apprehension and determination swirling in her chest. The path she could choose carried the weight of moral responsibility, but also the potential for backlash. It wasn't merely a job. It was a gamble where her ideals could either flourish or unravel. What did it mean to be a change agent in this tangled web of authority? "Okay," she said, gathering her breath. "I'm in." The words felt like a declaration, one that stirred an unfamiliar courage within her. Connors regarded her with respect, a subtle smile crossing his face. "Good choice. But understand, it's not just about gathering information. You'll need to pass the threshold of moral ambiguity that can haunt any officer caught in this kind of situation." His words hung between them, underscoring the weight of her decision. Returning home that night, Sarah grappled with the reality of what she'd just agreed to. As the glow of the streetlights flickered through her window, she paced her small apartment, her mind caught in a cyclone of introspection. The thought of infiltrating the very culture she was still learning to navigate both terrified and excited her. What would her fellow officers think once they realized she was involved in an investigation against their ranks? Could she ever trust them again? Or would this put her in the crosshairs of those who may feel threatened by her pursuit of the truth? Days turned into weeks as she attended her regular shifts, her heart racing each time she stepped into the precinct. She studied the subtle shifts in her colleagues' demeanor. Their laughter now felt like a facade, hiding potential dishonesty. Her power of observation sharpened. Every interaction became a potential lead or hidden clue. Each day she documented her feelings in a notebook. Perceptions, reactions, her growing unease. It became her emotional refuge. Despite her building anxiety, inexorably, her resolve strengthened. She carved out clandestine meetings with Connors, each session dense with new revelations that brought insight into the shortcomings of the department. In those moments she felt herself transforming. No longer the rookie simply absorbing riotous anecdotes, Sarah began to uncover her capabilities and establish a distinct professional identity. She questioned and prodded, finding herself engaging with her fears, rather than shying away. She was becoming someone who could wield her knowledge as a tool for change. But the pressure of secrecy wore on her. Each confrontation with her colleagues, a tense silence, a sideways glance, carried the weight of the truths she now held. One afternoon, while reviewing her notes in a secluded corner of the precinct, Officer Ramirez approached. "You're awfully quiet these days, Sarah," he remarked with an edge of concern. "You all right?" His simple question felt like a threat to her newfound strength. She hesitated, struggling with the instincts for honesty and the need to conceal. "Yeah, just trying to find my way," she replied softly. As Ramirez walked away, doubt crept in. Would her loyalty ever be fully recognized if she couldn't break down her own walls? She contemplated the raw potential of revealing her findings, a catalyst for greater change. Yet, at what point did the risk of alienation eclipse the chance at transformation? Between the fissures of determination and doubt lay a burgeoning realization. She couldn't turn back. The investigation was no longer an inconsequential choice. It was a conduit for her growth, both personally and professionally. But just as she steeled herself to face what was coming, a whispered conversation caught her attention, echoing just out of sight. She leaned closer, curiosity spurring her actions, only to find hushed voices linked to the very matters she sought to investigate. The realization jolted her. This was the first tangible evidence of the corruption she feared. As she stood there, everything she'd prepared for came crashing into focus. Sarah knew this would not be just a matter of professional integrity, but a survival test against her own ideals. Facing her colleagues with this knowledge wouldn't just be a challenge, it could become a reckoning. With her heart pounding and the consequences unfurling before her, she understood the path ahead demanded not just discernment, but an unyielding commitment to the truth. The weight of what she dare uncover was illuminating, but fraught with peril. And then, just as the tension built to an unbearable crescendo, an idea sparked in her mind. Could she confront the shadows of deceit directly? Or would she allow them to stalk her every action? The time for action had come, and the choices ahead could change everything she believed about herself and her career. Before long, she'd find out just how deeply she was willing to delve into the darkness. Sarah's heart raced as she stepped into the precinct the next morning, the heaviness of her secret pressing down like a lead weight. The whispers she had overheard burned in her mind, a reminder of the corruption lurking within her circle, familiar faces morphing into potential enemies. Her resolve wavered. She wanted to gather evidence, to confront the truth, but doubt crept in. How far was she willing to go to uncover it? After the typical morning briefings, Sarah found herself in a familiar corner of the break room, the sound of laughter contrasting sharply with her tense thoughts. Officer Ramirez entered, bringing the camaraderie with him, but she could only focus on the risk of exposure. Each smile from her colleagues now seemed insincere, a mask for whatever schemes lurked beneath their friendly demeanor. "Looking pensive today, Sarah," Ramirez commented, his gaze searching hers. She smiled weakly, unwilling to share the storms brewing inside. Instead, she diverted the conversation. "Just thinking about a case," she replied, rehearsing the words like a script. His brow creased slightly. "If you ever need to talk, I'm here," he added. The warmth of his offer felt genuine, yet it also made her chest tighten. How could she open up to him without endangering her mission? It was becoming clear that she had to draw lines. Decisions about whom to trust were quickly becoming essential pieces of her investigation. Later that day, during her routine shift, Sarah sensed the tension escalating around her. She began to observe her colleagues more keenly, noting hasty exchanges and furtive glances. The cases she previously viewed through a lens of innocence now hinted at deeper entanglements, conversations that sidestepped integrity and ethics. Each time she connected the dots, she also felt her courage swell. With Connors urging her on, she began to plan her next moves cautiously. In one of their clandestine meetings, they discussed the implications of gathering evidence discreetly. "It has to be a precise and calculated approach," Connors advised. "You want to be trusted, but you need to earn that trust through your actions, not just your words." The weight of his advice resonated. Sarah had always been reliable, always followed procedure. Now that reliability had to shift into something far more complex, an agent of change willing to navigate the murky waters of deception. She couldn't just report what she suspected. She had to demonstrate her findings and turn trust into conviction. That evening, as she returned home, her mind wrestled with strategies. She needed leverage, concise proof of misconduct. Maybe she could record conversations, collect documents, something tangible that would build a case against her colleagues and serve as a testament to her revelations. Yet, as the idea crystallized in her mind, a rush of fear followed. Each step into their world, deeper into the shadows of corruption, would further alienate her from those she sought to protect. Days passed, and Sarah's interactions became more calculated. Conversations turned into dual-purpose encounters, each exchange loaded with the intent to decipher loyalties. Each shift felt like playing with fire. Her profession was becoming a battleground of trust, and she was on the front lines with uncertain allies. Then one fateful night, she was assigned to help manage a transport for a criminal needing to testify. The air in the van was thick with tension, the atmosphere electric. But it was the passenger who unexpectedly turned the tide for Sarah. As she settled in beside him, he leaned closer, his eyes piercing into hers. "You know, you're not just a rookie anymore. You're filled with potential. But do you really believe there's a line worth crossing?" His question seized her, sparking a moment of contemplation. The balance of duty and conviction spun wildly, echoing through her psyche. Was she prepared to fully embrace her potential? Or would she falter when faced with the decisions that defined her? The transport ride turned into a crucible of inner conflict as she processed the weight of his words. The truth was far from simple, and every action she took now would mold not just her career, but her entire identity. As they pulled into the station, her resolve solidified. The confrontation with the shadows ahead loomed larger than ever. Could she act decisively, with confidence, confronting both the external dangers and the internal battles? With adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah stepped out into the night, a fierce determination flooding her senses. The endgame was drawing near, and she would have to decide once and for all. Would she embrace her true calling, or retreat into the safety of anonymity? In that moment, as the door closed behind her, she knew one certainty. The darker the path ahead, the greater her potential for transformation. What awaited her in the shadows would not only shape her future, but would test everything she believed about loyalty and integrity. The moment of truth was approaching, and Sarah's decisions would echo far beyond her own ambitions. Would she stand firm against the tide, or risk everything in pursuit of a truth that could change her forever? The next day, Sarah arrived at the precinct with a different mindset. No longer merely a rookie, she felt like a clandestine operative on the verge of unveiling a conspiracy. The weight of her secret remained heavy, but it also fueled a fire within her, igniting a burning determination to pursue the truth. Each colleague she passed in the hallway seemed to trigger an internal assessment. A mixture of suspicion and curiosity clawed at her, pushing her toward greater resolve. Her first task of the day involved a routine report review, yet Sarah approached it with an investigator's eye. As she flipped through case files, she began to notice inconsistencies. Dates that didn't match, suspicious comments in reports she'd never flagged before. The nagging feeling of doubt no longer dulled her curiosity. It propelled her forward. She jotted notes in the margins, her pen becoming an extension of her instincts. The world around her morphed from mundane routine to an intricate puzzle waiting to be solved. Later, she sought out Officer Ramirez, steeling herself for the conversation. Flirting with trust felt like a double-edged sword, yet she needed an ally. "Hey, Ramirez, can I ask you something?" she ventured, her heart quickening. "Of course," he replied, his tone light but his expression curious. "Have you ever noticed anything strange in our cases? Anything that didn't quite sit right with you?" Her question hung in the air, a subtle test. He hesitated, eyes narrowing as dodged thoughts crossed his mind. "What are you getting at, Sarah? You know we've all had our share of tough cases." "Just a feeling, I guess, about discrepancies," she continued carefully, weighing her words, guiding him toward the truth she suspected. Ramirez's expression shifted as he recognized her growing resolve. "You have a knack for reading between the lines. Don't get too deep. You might drown in it." His caution sparked recognition. He too felt the undercurrents, but chose to remain in shallow waters. Still, an ember of confidence flared in Sarah. Every day she was learning to step away from the safety net of compliance. As the week wore on, she began to implement small strategies that empowered her newfound role. At the end of each shift, she would sit in her car and meticulously go through the information she had collected, piecing together past cases, as if weaving a tapestry of corruption. The more she dissected their fabrications, the clearer the narrative became. It was intoxicating and empowering, but also frightening. With each revelation, she felt the distant roar of consequences. One evening, during a routine patrol shift, an unexpected knock on her window diverted her thoughts. A stranger in a dark coat leaned down, assessing her with discerning eyes. "Are you Sarah?" he asked, his voice low and urgent. Her heart raced. Had she been discovered? "Yes. Who are you?" His expression shifted slightly. "You don't know me, but I know about the investigation you're conducting. We need to talk. Somewhere safe." A thrill shot through her. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. However, the chilling realization of risk surged alongside. Was this a central thread to unravel the entire web of corruption? Or would it draw her deeper into the danger? Her instincts urged caution, but the prospect of revelation beckoned seductively. "All right," she replied, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she made the decision. The stranger motioned for her to follow, and as she shifted into gear, the stakes heightened. They pulled away from the precinct, the city lights flickering against the darkness, mirroring the uncertainty that loomed ahead. In that heartbeat of decision, Sarah felt something awaken within her, a strength she hadn't fully embraced. This was no longer just about her career. It was about confronting the corruption that twisted her purpose. Little did she know, the journey toward truth was layered with peril, and the moment she thought she was gaining control, a new threat emerged from the shadows. As they drove into the night, she wondered whether she could survive the choices she would soon be forced to make. The question pulsed in her mind. How deeply was she willing to dive into the darkness to bring the light of truth to the surface? The car turned onto a side street, the hum of the engine fading into the background as Sarah's pulse quickened. They sped past dimly lit alleyways, a maze of shadows and uncertainty swallowing them whole. The stranger's silence was unnerving, leaving her alone with her racing thoughts. What had she gotten herself into? "Do you trust me?" he finally asked, his voice breaking the tension like glass shattering. Trust? The word felt foreign on her tongue. "You want me to trust you when I don't even know your name?" "Names don't matter by the hour," he replied, his tone grim yet reassuring. "What matters is that you're not alone in this." Her heart wavered between hope and doubt. In a world where cynicism lurked behind every corner, could this man be the ally she desperately needed? The thought collided with another, that her continued pursuit could lead to greater danger, not only for herself but for anyone who might get drawn into her web of curiosity. As they approached an unmarked building, he gestured for her to park. The air felt charged, thick with anticipation and the weight of a million questions. Stepping out into the cool night, she followed him inside, feeling both empowered and terrified. The dimly lit room smelled faintly of old paper and coffee, a hidden sanctuary filled with relics of past investigations and the looming specter of corruption she coveted to uncover. The stranger slid a folder across the table and sat opposite her. "You're on the brink of something massive, Sarah. But you need to tread carefully." Her fingers trembled as she opened the folder. Inside lay reports, documents, and connections woven through a tumultuous network of deals and backdoor agreements, each page a potential key to the puzzle. She knew better than to bask in this newfound information. The adrenaline rush was just the beginning of an arduous journey. "But why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why share this with a rookie like me?" "Because you possess an instinct for truth," he replied, a hint of admiration in his voice. "Something many forget the importance of. Others have become complacent or blinded by the very corruption we're fighting against." She felt a strange mix of pride and disbelief. Could it be true? Had her relentless pursuit of truth drawn her here, to this moment? With each page she flipped through, her determination solidified. There was darkness ahead, but she needed to navigate it alone if she wished to win this battle. As the conversation deepened, the stranger revealed disturbing connections between key precinct officers and criminal enterprises, each revelation striking her like a blow. The risk was substantial. Her life could shatter if she moved the wrong piece on this dangerous chessboard. Yet, as she pieced the narratives together, a realization washed over her. The potential to expose this corruption was not just about her career. It was personal. The weight of justice did not hinge solely on her success, but on the burden of shared responsibility, pulling everyone into its orbit. With every instinct highly tuned, Sarah took notes, racing to keep up with the complex threads he unveiled. This was more than her professional development. This was a pivotal moment, bringing clarity to her purpose. She was weaving herself into a legacy she'd never expected to embrace. "I can't do this alone," she confessed, the tension in her voice betraying her confidence. "What if they come after me?" A steely resolve etched on his face. He responded, "Then we'd face it together. But first, we need to make sure you're equipped. This isn't just about gathering information. It's about strategy and survival." Recognition sparked within her. She wasn't merely an observer anymore. She was part of something that had the power to shake the very foundation of the corruption she wished to dismantle. The stakes had been raised, and as they laid out their next steps, she felt the undercurrents of fear and determination harmonizing into a single purpose. What began as whispers of caution had now grown into a full-fledged mission, a real chance to challenge everything she had once taken for granted. Yet, just as empowerment surged through her, a thought flickered at the edges. If she moved forward, what would she have to sacrifice? The question lingered, a haunting reminder that in the quest for truth, the path ahead might exact a price she wasn't ready to pay. As he detailed their first strategic move, a sudden crash from outside jolted them both, the sound ricocheting through her confidence like a warning shot. Would they even have the chance to execute their plans, or had the threat already closed in around them? The noise of shattering glass cut through the tension like a knife. Sarah's breath hitched. Instinctively, she leaned closer to the table, as if hiding from the repercussions of uncertainty. The stranger's eyes darted toward the door before returning to her with a seriousness that weighed heavier than before. "Stay here," he ordered, his voice low and steely. His urgency clashed with the tranquility of the earlier moments, igniting a spark of fear within her. In a split second, her fear morphed into something darker, an understanding of how quickly their safe haven could unravel. "Wait!" she called out, her resolve hardening. "Don't leave me alone, whatever's out there." "I'll be quick," he assured, though the hint of worry creased his brow. He slipped out into the shadowy hallway, leaving her engulfed in an eerie silence, punctuated only by the distant echo of unease. As she sat alone, the weight of her predicament tightened around her throat. She had stepped into a world bathed in shades of gray, and the threshold she stood upon felt less like an opportunity and more like a precipice. In the calm after the storm, she surveyed the folder that lay open before her. The insights it offered, now daunting in their implications, filled her with an urgency that contrasted starkly with her mounting isolation. The revelations seemed to pulse with a life of their own, drawing her in like a siren song. Was this what she had craved? A challenge that pushed her boundaries, tested her beliefs? Her heart raced as she began jotting down themes in the reports. Officer affiliations tangled with criminal networks, names that held both power and fragility. The further she delved, the clearer her path seemed. Yet the accompanying anxiety bubbled under the surface. She questioned. Was she ready to draw blood when the time came? If the stranger found trouble, would she have the resolve to confront it head-on? Seconds felt like hours, and when he finally returned, a quiet exhale of relief escaped her. "What was it?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "Nothing we can't handle," he replied, though the tension in his posture contradicted his assurance. "It seems they're aware someone is looking into things. We need to amp up our game and slip under the radar." The shift inflicted a sense of urgency upon her. "I want to help. What do we need to do?" Her voice carried more than just her inquiry. It bore a newfound conviction that pushed her forward. "That's the spirit. We need to gather intel without drawing attention. First, we're heading to the airport. I have a contact who can help us navigate through some of these connections. The airport? The notion thrilled her. Moving into a public space offered possibilities. It was an unpredictable environment, one where she could blend in yet remain observant. A canvas for her instincts, a chance to showcase her burgeoning skills. Yes, but we'll need to be cautious. He pulled out a worn notebook and flipped through its pages. Remember, they won't hesitate to silence threats. As he laid the foundation for their airport movement, Sarah's mind raced ahead. How could she leverage this opportunity? The airport wasn't just a hub of people. It was also an intersection of lives, intersecting against the backdrop of tension and possibility. What if it isn't just information we're digging up? She asked, a hint of fear lacing her words. What if I could confront one of them? He regarded her, a mix of concern and respect in his gaze. You're considering facing them directly? Why not? This is bigger than just gathering evidence. I want to stake my claim in this. If I could get a face-to-face with one of those officers. Not yet. We need to build your confidence and skill first. He interjected, his voice firm but patient. Yet beneath his protective demeanor, Sarah discovered a spark within herself. The courage to challenge herself was daunting but exhilarating. Deep down, she felt the weight of the past year's frustrations lift. This was not simply a chance to chase a story. This was a chance to reclaim her narrative. As they moved to leave, the air shifted. She could taste it. Adrenaline, a fierce determination to turn the tides of her career. She was no longer just a rookie, but a person ready to carve out her place against the forces working to suppress the truth. But as they stepped outside, a fresh pang of apprehension gripped her heart. Would the echoes of the past follow her into the unknown? Would the very officers she sought to confront mark her as the target? The nagging question filled her with unease. Was she prepared for the consequences this journey might unleash? Each breath became a promise wrapped in anxiety, propelling her toward an uncertain confrontation that loomed just ahead. Sarah took a steadying breath, ready to step into that theater of conflict. Yet, would the stage she set for herself unveil clarity or chaos? The truth was just within reach, but danger lurked in every corner, waiting to encircle her as she dared stride forward. Back at the precinct the following week, Sarah felt a palpable shift in her demeanor. No longer an anxious rookie, she now moved through the hallways with purpose and focus. Each interaction was a test of her newfound resilience. Conversations with her colleagues felt different. She recognized the weight of her aspirations against the backdrop of a system that could easily swallow her whole. In the evenings, she pored over the documentation she'd received from the stranger. The folder had transformed into a roadmap filled with potential connections and insights. For the first time, Sarah felt empowered. Unveiling the hidden truths rested not just on her expertise, but on her courage to confront the shadows that had long lurked within her department. Her resolve crystallized further when she began brainstorming potential strategies with the stranger. They had returned to the airport to meet his contact, a seasoned informant who had deep ties to the underbelly of the criminal world. This meeting promised the insight she longed for, the leverage needed to expose the corruption she now felt committed to dismantling. On their drive, they discussed potential angles. "When we meet, you have to be sharp. Know your role," he instructed. "Listen for details, but also observe how they respond to each other. The unsaid often speaks volumes." "Right," Sarah replied, her mind racing with a newfound clarity. This isn't just about gathering information. It's about piecing together a larger narrative. Her heart hammered with anticipation as they arrived at the airport. The bright lights and the hum of bustling airports contrasted with the tension surrounding their mission. It felt electric. Sarah took a moment, breathing in the atmosphere. This place was filled with stories, intersections of lives, each traveler a potential thread leading to uncovering a grand tapestry of corruption. As they moved through the crowd, she positioned herself strategically, allowing her instincts to guide her. The contact they sought arrived, and it wasn't long before they were led to a secluded corner of a quiet cafe within the bustling terminal. "Thank you for coming," the contact said, their voice low, a hint of urgency lacing the air. "You're knee-deep in something much larger than you realize. But I believe in your cause." The conversation unfolded, layers of connections revealing a web of criminal activities entwined with the officers from her precinct. Her heart raced as each piece fell into place. They discussed intricate operations, detailing the structure of illegal dealings, and the officers who turned blind eyes. Sarah knew this was no longer just about uncovering the truth for herself. It was a crusade that would demand full commitment. The stakes were real, and suggested danger loomed in the shadows. She could no longer afford to keep this knowledge for herself. "Are you ready to make your move?" the stranger asked, his voice steady and encouraging. She hesitated for only a split second. Then she felt it, a powerful swell of commitment. "Yes," she said, her voice steady. "I want to disclose this to the right people. It's time." With that decision, the burden shifted. Action became the vehicle through which she could redefine herself. Every doubt and every moment of fear faded behind a singular clarity. This was her mission, her purpose. The next few days were a whirlwind of strategic planning. As she forged alliances within the department and narrowed down who she could trust, the thrill of engagement became intoxicating. Each step taken was a brushstroke painting her future, one filled with initiatives that put the marginalized first, transcending the boundaries of her professional aspirations. It was during this time that she received the call from Jake. Listening to his voice felt like a balm for the battle-scarred spirit she carried. They spoke about his ongoing recovery, and Sarah felt a warmth in her heart as she realized how much he believed in her journey. His unwavering support helped solidify her path. "Just remember a key principle. We aren't in this for accolades. We serve truth and justice," he said with passion. Those words resonated deeply, fortifying her once again. Armed with this focus, Sarah prepared for the moment of disclosure. As she entered the meeting with the authorities involved in oversight, she felt a rush surge through her veins. Each scheduled hour was anchored firmly in purpose. She presented the evidence with diligence and integrity. Documents, audio recordings, and intelligence all unfolding like a carefully crafted story. This was not merely a presentation. It was a declaration. When the meeting concluded, she felt the gravity of transformation. No longer an underdog seeking acceptance. She was now a catalyst for change, standing firm under the weight of her convictions. As officials connected the dots and the enormity of her revelations sank in, every glimmer of fear from her past morphed into fuel for her future. In the following weeks, Sarah witnessed the ripple effect of her actions take form. Officers implicated in misconduct faced scrutiny, and an investigation was set in motion. A movement towards reforming their department that she had forestalled for too long. Change unfolded, and she could only reflect in unfiltered pride at what she had accomplished. Finally, Sarah stood outside the precinct, sunlight spilling colors across a new day. With every heartbeat, she realized that she had forged a future built on resilience, ethics, and empowerment. It was nothing short of remarkable. A triumph not only in her career but a profound reclamation of her identity. As she prepared to leave, a familiar presence caught her eye. Jake approached, his smile bright against the backdrop of her transformed world. They shared a knowing glance, both understanding the narratives they had rewritten together. "Let's keep fighting for the truth," he said, sealing their commitment. And in that moment, Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The pain that once cast shadows over her ambition had given way to clarity. She had conquered her fears, validated her ambitions, and emerged as the advocate she always believed she could be. This was her journey, but also a promise to never step back into the shadows again. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.